Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our final London branch, final webinar of the year, which is on a topic that's no doubt dear to all of us. Certainly something we will all be very aware of. Great pleasure to have Dr. Neil Stanley, who's going to provide us with everything that you wanted to know about sleep, but were too sleepy to ask. And I think just as a preface, there was a quote I had from Charles Schultz, who said that happiness is waking up, looking at the clock, and finding that you still have 2 hours left to sleep, which I think is something everybody can empathise with, or possibly the opposite to that, which is unhappiness, therefore being waking up and finding that you should have been awake 2 hours ago. But anyway, hopefully we're going to get an awful lot more of the former than we are with the latter with Neil. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Neil Stanley.
Thank you, Gregor. It's a pleasure to be here. Or not there, here. Where are we? I don't know. Anything you wanted to know about sleep, but were too sleepy to ask? My name is indeed Dr. Neil Stanley, but as you can see, I'm a PhD, so I'm not a medic. I'm a proper doctor. I've actually been involved in sleep research for the last 41 years. Initially started work at the Institute of Aviation Medicine, working alongside the Royal Air Force, looking at things like aircrew workload, jet lag, shift work, medicines you can take and safely fly, medicines you can take, get a good night's sleep and safely fly the next day. I was the first person ever to record sleep in the cockpit of an aircraft in flight, and I still hold the record for recording sleep in more people higher up a mountain for longer than anybody else has ever done so. In the early 90s, I moved to the University of Surrey, where I created and ran the world's largest clinical trial sleep laboratory, a 24-bed unit. And as part of that, I designed and constructed the 12 finest bedrooms built anywhere on the planet for a good night's sleep. Totally dark, totally quiet, temperature-controlled, single bed, teddy bear, that's all you need. I have worked clinically in Harley Street, in Copenhagen, and most recently in Oslo. I'm a member of all the things you should be a member of as a sleep expert, and I've published 40 peer-reviewed scientific publications. And for about the last 15 years or so, I've been an independent freelance sleep expert, traveling the world, talking about the importance of sleep pretty much to anybody who will listen. So I do a lot of work with healthcare professionals, but also in the health and safety, as I was just saying. I'm doing a series of lectures for the Institute of Quarrying around the country, but I also work with companies, charities, schools, whatever, to spread the message about sleep. Now, the reason for telling you all of this is not to impress you, but it's to tell you that I do actually know what I'm talking about. The problem with sleep is that it is not a protected discipline. Therefore, anybody can set themselves up as a sleep expert, even if they have had no training or experience. And indeed, many people have done so. So some of the people that you will read in the newspaper or see on telly have absolutely no training or experience in sleep at all. They are complete and utter cowboys and charlatans. And the thing is, if you think sleep is important, you should be taking advice from people who actually know something about sleep. So why am I talking to you about sleep? Well, you've probably heard this. You may have even said this yourself. I'm safe at work, so it doesn't matter if I'm sleepy. I'm a professional, been there, seen it, done it, know how to do my job. I'm trained. I literally could do this job in my sleep, so it is not a problem if I'm sleepy. Well, of course, that's nonsense. Being sleepy causes slower reaction time, impaired judgment and decision-making, decline in attention, decreased alertness, increased moodiness and aggressive behavior, and difficulty with memory. But even if you accept that, you're still going to rationalize it. Okay, I accept that being sleepy is not good, but I know when I'm going to be a problem. I know when I'm going to fall asleep. I know when I'm sleepy, I'll be fine because, you know, we've all seen the sign on the motorway, tiredness kills, take a break. So, you know, I'll do that. So I'll be absolutely fine. I don't have to worry about it. The problem with that line of thinking is you don't know how sleepy you are. People The more sleepy you are, the less able you are to judge how sleepy you are. So a study with anaesthetists showed that 75% of anaesthetists who swore blindly that they stayed awake whilst they were, administering anaesthetic, actually had fallen asleep. So by the time you recognize that you are sleepy, you have gone past where you are safe. So I was involved in a Department of Transport campaign a number of years ago saying the first yawn is too late. You are already a problem. And being awake for 18 hours is equivalent to being over the drink driving limit. Now, none of you will drink and drive, but the vast majority of you would quite happily get up early morning, and if your teenage daughter said at 11 o'clock at night, come and pick me up, I can't get a taxi, you would happily drive, even though you would not drive under the influence of alcohol. You would happily drive while sleepy. And then, of course, you'd be drinking coffee to cure your sleepiness. You rely on your coffee to get yourself through the day. The problem is that caffeine only has a very short-term effect. It only has an effect for about 30 minutes. The amount of caffeine needed to disrupt your sleep is a lot lower than the amount of caffeine that you need to help you get through the day. So for some people, even a coffee at lunchtime could be sufficient to disturb your sleep. Of course, we all have individual sensitivities to caffeine, and so some people can have 2 double espressos after dinner and still sleep perfectly well. So there's no exact time when everybody should give up caffeine, but you should be aware of the destructive effects on your sleep of caffeine. So why aren't we sleeping? Well, when I talk to corporate clients, I usually get some sort of tale of woe whereby you have to get up early in the morning, you've got a long commute into work, you work long hours, and you've got a long commute home, and then you've got a culture of sending the 11 o'clock email to everybody in the company, and oh, woe is me, what can I do? Well, that might be true to a degree, but it wasn't your boss in your living room last night with a gun to your head forcing you to watch something on Netflix. That was something that you were doing yourself. So for the vast majority of people, it is just poor sleep habits. Sleep used to be a good thing. It was a pleasure. It was a refuge. It was somewhere warm. It was a nice thing to do. But now it is the thing that is replaced by watching funny cat videos on TikTok or talking to your imaginary friends on Facebook. Circadian factors, shift worker is outside the purview of this talk, unfortunately. Environmental disruptions, light, sound, cold are going to disturb sleep. Untreated sleep problems, yes, there are medical issues with sleep, but they're relatively rare. So again, as I say, for most of us, it's that we do not take sleep seriously enough. In the past, as I say, sleep used to be something that perhaps you didn't look forward to, but you used to get up, you went and did a hard day's labor, you came home, you had your dinner, and you went to bed. So sleep was not easily disturbed. But now, as I say, we've all got our screens, we've all got our devices, and so for most people their preparation for bed is to switch their TV off, have a pee, brush their teeth, flop into bed expecting sleep to happen, and then being mildly surprised when it doesn't. So when people say, how do you get a good night's sleep? My answer is very simple. Take sleep seriously. If you take sleep seriously, you'll start doing those behaviors that will actually help you get a good night's sleep. But if you see sleep as the thing you have to do at the end of the day rather than the thing you want to do at the end of the day, then you'll never get a good night's sleep. So what is sleep? Well, it's a biological enigma. We don't really know. The way to annoy a sleep expert is to ask them, why do we sleep? Because we haven't really got a clue. We know it's non-negotiable. You have to do it. You all did it in the last 24 hours. You'll all do it again in the next 24 hours. Now, it'd be best if you did it all snuggled up in your bed tonight. But if you don't, it's still going to happen. It will happen tomorrow morning when you're driving in to work or when you're sitting on the tube. It will happen whether you like it or not. It's a vital physical need. It's like food, water, and air. You need it to survive. We know it's necessary for the restoration and recuperation of both physical and mental functioning, not really the physical functioning, because you can do that at any time. You're indeed doing it now. You're sitting down, your blood pressure's dropped, your heart rate's dropped, you're not using your major muscle group. So physically, you're repairing and recuperating. But mentally, you're not. Mentally, even if you're not listening to me and you're staring out the window, your brain is still working really hard. And it's only during the night, during sleep, does the brain's activity reduce to any degree so the brain can do its housekeeping. Sleep's important for the optimal functioning of the endocrine, metabolic, and the immune system, particularly the immune system, which is optimized during sleep, so that if you have one poor night's sleep, the next day you are 4 times more likely to catch the common cold. Sleep affects all organs of the body, but primarily, as I mentioned, sleep is of the brain and for the brain. So in any one 24-hour period, you're in one of 3 distinct states of being. You're either awake, which hopefully you all are still now, or you're in non-rapid eye movement sleep, or you're in rapid eye movement sleep. Now, REM and non-REM are as different from each other as they are from awake. You don't notice the difference, of course, because you are asleep at the time. Non-REM sleep makes up the majority of the night, 75 to 80% of the night, and it's traditionally divided into 3 stages of sleep, each of increasing depth. So stage 1 is the transition from awake to asleep. If you are awake and you're going to go to sleep, you'll go through stage 1 sleep whenever you fall asleep. Makes up about 1 to 5% of the night and is the lightest stage of sleep, such that if I were to wake you up during stage 1 sleep, you would say, why did you do that? I wasn't asleep. And this is going back to what I was saying about the anaesthetists. They think they were awake the whole time, but they were actually asleep. Stage 2 sleep is 45 to 50% of the night. Now, you would have thought the thing we spend 50% of the night doing would be really important. It probably is. We just don't understand why. But we do know that N3, deep slow wave sleep, is the most important part of sleep. Slow wave sleep, 25% of the night, is the bit of sleep that makes you think like you've had a good night's sleep. It's the restful, recuperative part of sleep. And deep sleep is when we optimize the immune system that I mentioned earlier. Deep sleep is when we lay down memories. It's also when we learn new tasks. And so deep sleep is vital for physical and mental recuperation. Rapid eye movement sleep, the last 20, 25% of the night. Rapid eye movement sleep is when we have our long narrative dreams. Everybody dreams 4 or 5 times a night, but you can only remember your dreams if you wake up during them. If you don't wake up during your dreams are gone, and they're gone forever. Your dreams are involved in emotional well-being, in emotional memory. So deep sleep is about factual memories, what happened. REM sleep is about how do I feel about what happened. So how is this put together? Well, this is a very stylized version of a good night's sleep for an adult. So essentially, within 15 to 20 minutes of you switching your light off, you should fall asleep. All things being equal, a healthy adult will fall asleep within 20 minutes of switching their light off. Regularly taking more than 30 minutes to fall asleep would be indicative of insomnia. But also falling asleep too quickly can be a problem. If you fall asleep the minute your head hits the pillow, then you're probably sleep deprived. You'll quickly go through your lightest stage of sleep once you've fallen asleep. So about 20 minutes after you've fallen asleep, you will be in your first period of that deep, slow wave sleep. That period may last 40 to 60 minutes or so, and then you'll have your first dream. That dream may only be 10 minutes long at this point, then back down into some more deep sleep. And then after that, the latter part of the night, is in either REM periods, approximately every 90 minutes, or stage 2 sleep. Now, your REM periods can get longer during the night. So in the latter part of the night, they can be 40, 45 minutes long or so. So our deep restorative sleep is in the first third of the night. In the latter part of the night, our sleep is lighter and more easily disturbed because we're in that stage 2 sleep, or we're in periods of REM. Now, you are preferentially designed to wake up during REM. So if you woke up this morning without an alarm clock, you'll almost certainly have woken up in that last dream of the night, and to a degree that will be the dream that you will remember. But if you got up to pee during the night, you again almost certainly got up during a REM period. And that's why many people think they wake up at the same time each and every night. They go to bed roughly at the same time. They have their REM periods roughly at the same time. Therefore, they wake up roughly at the same time. And confirmation bias just tells you that it's 6 minutes past 3 every time you wake up. So I say that is a very idealized version of a good night's sleep. This is a real data from a good night's sleep. As you can see, there's a lot of awakenings from those blue periods of REM, and there's a lot more shifting between stages. Those small awakenings that are shown, you are not aware of. You have to be awake for a minute and a half at least before you are aware that you have awoken. We wake up many times a night in order to check the environment, to check that it is safe to carry on sleeping. But as I say, thankfully, they are very short and we're not aware of them. Waking up is only a problem if those wakings prolong. So how much sleep do you need? Well, this is where everybody shouts at the screen, I know this one, it is 8 hours, and you're all wrong. Nobody has ever recommended 8 hours as the amount of sleep that one needs. Sleep need is individual, is genetically determined, and varies quite widely. So some people can absolutely thrive on just 4 hours sleep. Very few, but some. Others need 11 hours to feel at their best. I personally know that I need 9.5 hours sleep to feel at my best. And if I were to only get 8 hours sleep, I would feel pretty ropey. So it's about getting the right amount of sleep for you. So what is the right amount of sleep for you? Well, very simply, it's the amount of sleep that allows you to feel awake, alert, and focused during the day. If you're awake, alert, and focused during the day, you've had enough sleep. If you're tired during the day, well, actually, that tells me nothing. Tired has got very little to do with sleep. Tired has got to do with what I like to call having a bit of a rubbish life. Tiredness has got to do with it's Wednesday, it's dark and cold. I only won £3 on the Euro Millions last night, so I'm probably going to carry on talking to people like you for the rest of my life. Life's just not great, is it? Well, that might all be true, but it's got nothing to do with sleep. If you have a problem with your sleep, you will be sleepy. Now, you might say, what's the difference between being tired and being sleepy? It's very simple. If you walk up 3 flights of stairs, when you get to the top, do you need a sit down or do you need a sleep? If you need a sit down, you're tired, fatigued, knackered, exhausted. If you need a sleep, you are sleepy, and only sleepy people have a problem with their sleep. So we're going to talk now about how sleep affects performance, how you do your job. So there are 4 types of behavior that are associated with high quality teams: operating with a strong orientation to results, solving problems effectively, seeking out different perspectives, and supporting others. So if you are trying to work to strong orientation to results, well, you need to be able to focus and avoid distraction whilst at the same time seeing the bigger picture. So we know that sleep deprivation impairs that ability to focus attention selectively. Solving problems effectively. Well, you need to be able to have insight, pattern recognition, come up with innovative, creative ideas. And we know that a good night's sleep allows you to be much quicker in solving problems than if you were sleep deprived. Seeking out different perspectives, listening to information, encoding information, using information. Very, very simply, the best example of this is the Challenger space shuttle disaster. Everybody blames the molten fire-core rubber O-ring in the solid fuel booster that failed and causing a leak of fuel, which ignited and the Challenger blew up. So it was blamed on a mechanical fault. The issue is that was always going to happen. Why? Because the launch team had been awake all night. The launch had been delayed. They were desperate to get the launch off. They decided to launch at dawn. They had been told by the meteorologists that at dawn the air temperature was going to be below freezing. And if you look in the big boys book of how to launch a space shuttle, it says you cannot launch it when the air temperature is below freezing. They heard the information. They noted the information. They did not use the information. So the minute they took the decision to launch, that was going to fail. So it's about listening to the information, avoiding tunnel vision, reducing cognitive bias. Supporting others. You've got to be able to listen to them. You've got to be able to understand them. You've got to be able to hear their tone of voice. People who are sleep deprived mumble. They're indecisive about what they're saying. They don't know what they're saying. They get overly emotional. People respond to their emotion in a negative fashion. So people who don't have enough sleep don't trust each other. And actually, bizarrely, people who work for sleepy bosses are less likely to be engaged in their job. So these are all factors, significant factors in people working in whatever industry will go wrong. So this is down to something called the prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex is pretty unique to humans. It's the bit straight behind your forehead, and it does all the clever stuff: problem solving, reasoning, organizing, inhibition, planning, executing plans. The thing is, it's been shown that the prefrontal cortex is the bit of the brain that is most affected by poor sleep. So you cannot do the clever stuff. You cannot solve problems. You cannot make decisions. Famously, you cannot do things correctly. So you will, if you have a safety checklist that has got 13 steps in that checklist, you will indeed do all 13 points. You just won't do them in the right order, but you will walk away from that situation going, well, I did all 13 points. Aren't I clever? And then when it goes wrong, wonder why. So we do have these things called circadian rhythms, just the rhythm across the 24 hours. And of course, we have a very, very low point in our performance at around 2 to 4 o'clock in the morning, but we also have the post-lunch dip in the mid-afternoon. Now, people call that the post-lunch dip, which is confusing because you don't actually need food to experiencing it. It is a natural dip in our performance. So those are the two times when our performance is compromised, and this translates into a reduction in performance overnight. Performance is massively compromised, and this is very simple things like delays in answering phone calls, errors in reading meters, and time taken to break down broken threads. So these are very simple tasks. So if performance is compromised on these such simple tasks, can you imagine how bad it is on complex tasks? So how sleepy are you now? This is the Epworth Sleepiness Scale. It will be a series of 8 different scenarios, which you have to rate how likely you are to fall asleep in each of these scenarios. So you have to imagine you're in the scenario. So it's a 0 to 3 scale. 0, you would not doze. 1, there's a slight chance you'd doze. 2, a moderate chance of dozing. 3, there is a high chance. So you're looking at a high score of 24. So just keep a running total. I don't want to know your scores. Just you in your heart of hearts answer this honestly. So if you are sitting and reading at this moment, how likely, 0 to 3, would it be for you to fall asleep? As you can see, all of these slides will have a picture of His Majesty, because I am the only sleep expert ever to have lectured 3 times at Buckingham Palace. And if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for you. So if you are watching TV, 0 to 3, how likely would it be for you to fall asleep? Sitting inactive in a public place, a theatre or a meeting. As a passenger in a car for an hour without a break. Sitting and talking to someone, sitting quietly after lunch without alcohol, in a car while stopped for a few minutes in traffic, and lying down to rest in the afternoon when circumstances permit. So you should all have got a total. So what does your total mean? Well, if it's less than 10, then brilliant. Well done. You are perfectly normal. But if you are over 10, then you have excessive sleepiness. If you're over 16, you have a clinically relevant level of sleepiness. So you need to look in your heart of heart as to whether you are normal or a safety risk. If you're an 8-hour-a-night person, I know I told you weren't a few slides ago, but play along. If you're an 8-hour-a-night person and you only got 6 hours sleep last night, that's the equivalent of drinking 2 beers. 4 hours sleep, 4 beers. 2 hours sleep, 5 beers. 0 hours sleep is the equivalent of drinking 3.5 litres of beer. You would not turn up to work drunk. Indeed, for probably all of you, turning up to work drunk would be a disciplinary offence, but you would turn up to work sleepy. And indeed, if you did turn up to work sleepy, you would want to be Employee of the Month, have a pat on the back and the little badge they give you because you are such a hero that you are powering through. Whereas actually you are a danger to yourself and to your co-workers. If you're driving along at 60 miles an hour and you fall asleep at the wheel, it'll take you 4 seconds for your car to come off the road. If you ever get the opportunity to do this, find a straight and level piece of road, take your car up to 60 miles an hour, take your hands off the wheel, count slowly to 4. It gets really, really exciting around 3. This is a brilliant poster from the New Zealand government, and we should have much more of this. Both for road traffic, but also in terms of safety. So, as I say, sleep deprivation, you can do things. If you, again, the classic example of this was some work done by the US military, which essentially, some of you will be old enough to remember those shooting galleries where you walk through a cityscape and targets ping up and you've got to shoot the bad people but not shoot the good people. Well, they showed that if you're sleep deprived, you shoot really, really well. You're just as accurate at shooting. You just shoot everybody because you don't have the ability to make that quick judgment. So you can do basic tasks, you just can't sustain your performance of those tasks. So, as I say, you can't do things intensively or extensively. So it is, you can, summon your resources in the short term, but in the long term, things go badly wrong. So you have reduced vigilance, impaired memory and decision-making, problem solving, prolonged reaction times, increased errors and critical incidents, performance variability, as I say, making judgments and doing things in the wrong order. Again, the Selby and the Kegworth air crash, the 737 that crashed short at East Midlands. There was an engine fire. The pilot says to the co-pilot, which engine is it? And he says it's the right. It was not the right engine. The right engine was working, but the pilot switched the working engine off and the aircraft hit the ground because the co-pilot didn't make the right judgment call on the information that he was given by the two dials concerning the engine. So, as I say, people take longer to think about things, to come up with a decision. They probably are going to make the wrong decision based on the information. They're probably going to communicate it badly, mumble it, or be indecisive in what they say. So these are direct issues of performance. And what is interesting is that every day that you have a bad night's sleep, your performance gets worse each day. That was number of lapses. This is the time that you miss red lights flashing. So this is like missing brake lights in front of you. And this is reaction time speed. As you can see, with 3 hours a night each day, you become worse and worse. And actually, performance only ever reverts back to normal if you get recovery normal sleep. And I say this can be for a week or 2 weeks. If you have poor sleep for 2 weeks, if you only have 6 hours sleep for 2 weeks, on the end of those 2 weeks, your performance is degraded as though you had not had any sleep for 2 entire nights. So how do you know that you're not getting enough sleep? Well, people notice your performance. One of the big issues here, if any of you read Private Eye and the MD column, Phil Hammond's column about the health service, you'll know that we're very bad in the UK health service about reporting what's going wrong, whereas in Australia they have this buddy system where people are watching your performance and you're watching their performance and you learn from that. But people will notice you're not up to speed on what you do. You nod off during breaks and during lunch. You're less effective in what you do, and you take longer to accomplish the task. You have trouble focusing, and you become less motivated, and you become impatient and aggressive with family members and colleagues. So we did the Epworth Sleepiness Scale a bit earlier. This is the Karolinska, which is a very much shorter, easier one-shot questionnaire, and this can easily be used in safety critical industries to measure the level of sleepiness in the staff. Now, of course, you can game this, you can lie on this. Yeah, absolutely. But if it's done in a confidential manner, then it can really give you some good insight on how your staff are doing. So how can sleep catch us best? I've told you that you need to get a good night's sleep, and I've told you that for the vast majority of you, your sleep is within your own control. You have agency over your sleep. So you may have heard of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, which is the #1 first-line therapy for insomnia now. It's the recommended treatment for insomnia, and this is essentially a distillation of that technique. So first of all, you need a sleep-promoting environment. Dark, quiet, cool, comfortable. How dark's dark? Well, for some people, even a single candle light would be sufficient light to disturb your sleep. For other people, it would be 350 lux, which is an office on a dreary Wednesday. So people have huge sensitivities to the light and how that will disturb their sleep. And it is any light. It is not just blue light that will affect your sleep. Any light will disturb your sleep. So blackout blinds, heavy curtains, putting your devices away 45 minutes before bed, etc., etc. Moderate temperature. In order to get a good night's sleep, you need to lose 1 degree of body temperature. You lose that temperature out of your head and face because that's the big fleshy thing that sticks out from under your duvet. So you need a temperature gradient. The bedroom needs to be cool. The bed can be warm, but you warm the bed up anyway because you're just one big cuddly hot water bottle. So the recommended temperature is 16 to 18 degrees in the bedroom. But in the winter, there is very little need to run the heating overnight. What is much greener and vastly more effective would be to wear a hat, wear a nightcap, wear a balaclava if you're cold, because that is much better than trying to heat the air in a room, which is going to be hugely expensive. Quiet, the World Health Organization says that the background level of noise in a bedroom should be 35 decibels with intermittent peaks of 45 decibels. 35 decibels is a quiet conversation in a library. 45 decibels is a lorry going past a double glazed window. Your average snore is 65 to 95 decibels. So you can see why they disturb sleep. Fresh air is good for sleep, but also comfort. If you live to the age of 70, you'll spend 220,000 hours of sleep. You'll spend more time in your bed than you'll spend in any one other place in your life. So if you've spent £99 on a mattress from Mattress Man in his white van, then you probably deserve every bad thing that happens to you. I'm not saying that you have to spend an awful lot of money on a mattress. It's not a direct correlation between the amount you spend and the comfort, but it is important that you get the right bed for you. Next up, quiet mind, relaxed body. Well, you can be absolutely physically exhausted and not fall asleep. Why? Because you don't have a quiet mind. Quiet mind is the absolute prerequisite for sleep. So how do you quieten your mind? Don't know. I know what I do. I read every night. Don't know what you do. But, you know, chamomile tea, Horlicks, yoga, mindfulness, journaling, listening to Pink Floyd really loudly. It doesn't matter what you do, as long as you do something to quieten your minds. Put your cares and worries to bed long before you get into bed. And if you do get into bed and your brain is still racing, then practice thought blocking. Subtract 7 from 1,000 repeatedly. Go through the alphabet, naming an animal beginning with each letter of the alphabet. My favorite from many years ago, list alphabetically all the operas you've seen. Whatever you do, don't worry about whatever is causing you to worry. Strong association between sleep and bed. If you get into bed, you are only doing that to fall asleep. There is no other reason to get into bed. You do not want to associate wake behavior with the bed. So the bed and the bedroom should be a sanctuary for sleep. And when you go there, you should be looking to sleep. So if you haven't fallen asleep within 30 minutes at the start of the night or 20 minutes in the middle of the night, then get up, go to another room, do something relaxing. And then when you feel sleepy again, go back to bed. There is no point lying in bed, getting ever more frustrated, tossing and turning, getting upset with yourself because you haven't fallen asleep. Break that cycle. No direct effort for sleep. Lying in bed going, I must get sleep, I must get sleep, I must get sleep, I must get sleep, isn't going to work. So you need to put your mind and body in the place for getting a good night's sleep. And then absence of regular thought processes about sleep. Very, very simply, as the Nike advert says, just do it. Lying in bed going, oh, if I don't fall asleep within the next 10 minutes, there's never going to be any possibility that I'll be able to fall asleep. And, oh, my God, I still haven't fallen asleep. Oh, dear, I'm not going to get to sleep and I'm going to go to work tomorrow and I'm going to make a mistake and the boss will notice and he'll sack me and won't be able to pay the mortgage and I'll lose my house and my wife will divorce me and I'll die in a cardboard box under the Hammersmith flyover. Oh my God, I can't sleep now. Don't get upset by your sleep. Don't try to sleep. Don't look or even think of buying a sleep tracker because they're utterly hopeless and cause more problems than they're unnecessary. Just go to bed with a quiet mind, a relaxed body, into a sanctuary of a bedroom, and you will be able to fall asleep 9 times out of 10. So that is very, very simply a distillation of cognitive behavioral therapy. SleepStation is a provider of digital cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. It is on the NHS in England. Every PCN in England has this on their books, so you can be referred to SleepStation to do a digital version of cognitive behavioral therapy. CBTI was designed to be done by therapists, but there aren't any therapists, so SleepStation came up with a digital version, but the key differentiation is that there are human sleep coaches. So you've got the address there if you're interested in SleepStation. It is a solution. 84% of people who do SleepStation have a clinically meaningful improvement in their sleep. So if you do have a problem with your sleep, it is available. If you work in a company and you've got 10,000 employees who you want to get a better night's sleep, then SleepStation could probably help you with that as well. This isn't meant to be an advert for SleepStation. As I say, it's available on the NHS. So think about that. So that's me saying thank you. That's who I am. That's my email address for hate mail. That's my website address for whatever reason. That's my first book. That's proof my first book works. And with that, I say thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, you now have ample opportunity to ask your questions. So thanks very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Neil. That was absolutely fascinating. I'm sure the audience had more than 1 or 2 things to take away for that. We have got a couple of questions. 2 that are, well, relatively related. One, when you were looking at the hypnogram, and there were those different periods where you came out and went back into REM and then back into deeper sleep. Are they linked to different processes, so endocrine, memory, etc., at different parts of that pattern, or is it all happening at roughly the same time? It just happens to be a sine curve, which nature loves anyway.
That's a very good question. And as I intimated at the start, we know less about sleep than you'd perhaps credit us with. We don't know. We know roughly why we sleep, but we have no idea why we sleep in this pattern, because it doesn't make any useful sense. If deep sleep's important, why don't we just have 1 period of deep sleep, 1 period of REM, get rid of the stage 2 because it doesn't seem to do anything, and have it all over and done within 4 hours? You'd have thought after 450 million years of evolution, because that's how far back we can trace sleep, you'd have thought we would have found another way of doing it, and we haven't. And that's the problem. As I say, we still don't know why we have stage 2 sleep. It does things that deep sleep does, it does things that REM sleep does, but deep sleep and REM do them better. So it actually seems that stage 2 sleep is just there to keep us asleep so we can have our 5 REM periods. But again, why don't we just get rid of it? So there is a reason, but I'm 58. I hope to live a long and happy life, but I'm sure I'm going to my grave and I still won't be able to answer your question. We don't know. We just don't know. And of course, by measuring it, we modify sleep. But by definition, it's impossible to do a blood draw without affecting sleep. It's impossible to sleep in an MRI. People claim you can, but you can't. It's just too bloody night, and you're lying, like you're in a coffin, so you're not moving. So, there are a lot of issues that we just don't know about.
Okay, thank you for that. Just I suppose linked to that in a way, do all mammals sleep or do all animals sleep?
Yeah, all mammals sleep the same way that we do. So they have REM sleep, they have deep sleep. So all mammals do. We think birds have dreams, and there has just been some research that suggests that insects may dream, which is getting really basic. But in lower forms of animals where there is, should we say, less of a brain, sleep is usually indicated by lack of movement. So if an animal stops moving, it's resting or it's sleeping. We're potentially projecting onto the animals. But yes, even very basic organisms have a active and inactive rhythm, whether that is sleep as we know it, where if they don't have a brain, no, it's not, but it is a period of quiescence, I suppose.
Okay, thank you for that. Another question: what are the usual causes of waking often at night if light stroke noise aren't an issue, and what can be done about it?
Well, most people is getting up for a pee. Certainly as we get older, getting up for a pee becomes much more frequent. But as I say, bed partners, much of your sleep disturbance is caused by your bed partner. I published the first paper about couples and sleep in 2005. But also, it doesn't have to be noise as in you know, a loud noise like, you know, an argument in the street. It actually can be even the absence of noise. I used to live next to a train station. I used to catch the train to work, and I would wake up at 5:26 if I didn't hear the train. Because if I didn't hear that first train, were they on strike? Had it snowed? Am I going to get to work? So it was the absence of noise. So there can be many things, but also there can be medical reasons. Pain, for instance, or snoring, sleep apnea can also wake you up in the night. So look at your internal environment, you know, the bed and noise and that sort of thing. But then, as I say, if you are frequently waking up for no reason, there has to be a reason. There's never not a reason why you're waking up.
Okay, thank you for that one. I've got one on that graph you had with regards to accumulated sleep deprivation, increasing the frequency with which your reaction times, what you do, etc., goes wrong. You said recovery sleep is the thing that rectifies that. Is that just one night's recovery sleep, or would you need a period of recovery sleep to sort of regain it all?
No, actually, I mean, the person who we know stayed awake longer than anybody else has ever done so, a guy called Randy Gardner, who was a 17-year-old college student in San Diego back in 1965. He stayed awake for 11 and a half days. And we know because he was observed by surgeons from the Navy base. So we know he definitely didn't fall asleep. And he just slept for one night after that and went back straight to his normal rhythm. Back in 2004, there was a program called Shattered, where it was made by the people who did Big Brother, and I was a scientific consultant on it. And Claire Southern, who won the prize for staying awake longer than anybody else, she had 10 hours sleep, and then the next day was absolutely fine. So yeah, just one night is sufficient to make up an awful lot of the decrement to sleep.
Okay, thank you for that. And I've got one more question. If anybody else has another one, please do ask. We've got a great opportunity to ask Neil about something we all do, as he said at the start. Yawning, what's that all about?
Well, it's not about what you think it is about. It doesn't increase the amount of oxygen to the brain in any meaningful sense. It's not a sign of sleepiness. It's a sign that the world is safe. It's non-verbal communication. And you'll see this best in Western lowland gorillas who roam the jungle eating, and at some point they have to decide that it's, you know, time for bed. And the yawn is the sign that everything is safe, everything is good in the world, and it's time to go to sleep, which is why yawning is contagious, because it is a social communication. Yes, it's safe, we can go off and we can sleep. So as I say, it is not a sign of boredom, it is not a sign of disinterest, and it's not a sign of sleep. It is a sign of everything is good in the world, everything is safe in the world, and it's non-verbal. You don't show your teeth, so it's not a threat. And I say it's just a good thing. It's a good thing to do, if you see what I mean. So I have no objection when I'm in person giving a lecture if somebody's yawning. It's not offensive to me if somebody yawns. I actually think it's quite good, because I've created a nice environment for them.
Brilliant, Neil, thank you for that. We have no more questions. Recognizing the time, it's approximately 10 to 7. So I'm just going to say once more, Neil, thank you very much indeed. That was absolutely fascinating. And hopefully for all those people that scored 10 or above, there's an additional 10 minutes that they may want to invest in getting some better quality sleep. Neil, thank you very much indeed, on behalf of the London region and the broader IIRSM community, who may be looking back on this. It will go up as a webinar. But yeah, thank you very much indeed for your time, and good night, everyone.
Thank you very
Good night,
much.
everyone.
Pleasure. Thank you.